Hey guys, this is Brent with Western Equipment, and I've got a 2021 John Deere X354 here. I'm going to be doing a complete walk around and review of this mower and showing you everything you need to know about it. So let's get started. First, let's talk about model numbers, as we know that those can be confusing because there could be so many different models within a certain lineup of lawnmowers. So here, guys, we have the X354. We'll go ahead and start here with the X. Now, this is going to be the indicator that we're moving up from the S series. And now the one thing about the X series mowers is that these are going to be dealer exclusive mowers, meaning you're not going to find the X series at those larger box stores, say like Lowe's or Home Depot. Now our next number is going to be the 3 here. This is going to indicate the size series. So this is an X3. So in the John Deere X series lineups, you're going to have X3s, X5s, and X7s. So this is going to be on the lower end there of the X series mowers. Now next here we have our 5, 4. Now this is going to be our model indicator. So our 5 here is going to indicate the size and features that come with this mower. So within the X3 series, you're going to have X330s, 350s, 354s, 370s, 380s, 384s, 390s, and 394s. So this is just going to indicate, like I said, the different features that come with this mower. And then our last number here, this 4, is going to indicate that this is a 4-wheel steer machine. So you also have, moving up, you have a 384 and a 394. So the 354 here is going to be your base model with 4-wheel steer. Now let's get underneath the hood. And the first thing that I always like to point out on these mowers is just how easy it is to raise and lower this hood. One thing that you'll notice is there's no clamps or clips or anything that's holding this hood down. Simply the weight of the hood itself is going to hold it down in place, which also makes it super easy to get open. Now, next thing we point out, if we look here, we have a 21.5 horse Kawasaki engine, 726 cc's. So this is a V-twin engine. It's going to have plenty of horsepower to push this mower and to push that deck that we've got underneath. Now, while we're looking underneath the hood here, the main thing that we like to talk about is going to be service points. So we'll start here at the front on this cover. This is going to be where our air filter is housed. Very easy to get to. You just have a clamp here that actually has a hand nut that you're going to be able to take off, remove that filter, change it, and then just go right back shut by pushing that closed. Now next, over here on the side, we have our spark plug. Now we're going to have one here on the side, and remember this is a V-twin engine, so you will have another over here on the other side. Moving back towards the back here, we're going to have our fuel filter. And then we've also got our battery. Now, one nice thing about this battery is that it is held in place by this rubber strap here, so it's not going to be wiggling around and banging around underneath here. So that's also a nice feature. Now, over here on this side, we've got our oil fill. Now, it's very easy to see here, right here on the cap. It's going to tell you that this is where your oil fill is, and this is also going to be our dipstick here, where we can check those oil levels. And then right next to that, we're going to have our oil filter. And then right down below here, we're going to have our oil drain. Now this is great. It pokes all the way out to the side here. You can get that oil pan stuck underneath. Very easy for that draining. You'll also notice that it's meant to be opened by hand. So it's an easy open. But one thing that I would say is that from the factory, you know, the first time you're going to break this open and change the oil, you may need a pair of pliers to open that up. Or you'll see here that you have this square hole where you can also fit a 1/4-inch ratchet to break that open. Now, talking about service points, another thing that you need to keep in mind is right here underneath the hood on the back side of this cowling, you are going to have that service interval chart. This is going to tell you all the times that you need to do those different services, whether it's changing your oil, your air filter, all those different things are right here. Now, you will have this in your operator manual, but as we know, we lose those. They get put in a drawer. We can't remember where they're at. So we do have that stuck right here underneath the hood. Guys, I've also done plenty of different videos on servicing these mowers, so make sure to check those out in the link in the description below, because I'll leave those so you can see how to do the services on this mower. Now let's talk about the operator station. The first thing that I want to point out is the new seat on the 2021 X354. This is going to be a big upgrade from the previous 2020 models. We now have an 18-inch high back Super cushioned, super comfortable seat here, and it's also got this nice cut and sewn cover here with the John Deere emblem. You're also going to have a hole here in the bottom to relieve any moisture, any water buildup that gets here. You will be able to have that drain out. Now, a couple of nice things about this seat, like we talked about, this cut and sewn cover, you are going to have these snap releases on this. It's going to allow you to remove this cover if you do happen to get those snags or tears or maybe that sun fading. You can replace just the cover rather than having to replace the whole seat. Now, you're also going to see 3 holes here on the side. This is going to allow you to put on the optional armrest kit. You know, there's a lot of people that like those armrests whenever they're riding, they're going along with this mower. So now you do have the option to add that to this seat. Now, next, guys, getting onto the mower, this is something I always like to talk about that's nice about riding tractors, is that they're a little bit easier to get into than maybe a zero turn, as you can get a lot closer to the mower. You've got 3 points of contact. So if you're that person that maybe has those mobility issues, or maybe you're elderly and you have a lot harder time getting onto things, you do have those 3 points of contact here where you can grab onto the steering wheel, the seat, and then push yourself up and onto the mower. So I'm just going to go ahead and get on here, guys. And one thing that I'd like to point out is just how, like I said, how comfortable this seat is. You can see how high it comes up on my back. And then we also have this spring suspension underneath, which we'll talk a little bit about here in just a minute. Now we're going to talk about the controls in the operator station, but before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about what truly makes this mower special, which is the fact that it's the 4-wheel steer. So remember that in the X354, that 4 is meaning that this is 4-wheel steer. So as you see here, guys, whenever I'm turning this mower, you can see my front wheels turn there, but then you can also see my back wheels turn. And guys, I'm telling you that this is huge. This is really going to cut down on your uncut circles. So what that means is the amount of space that whenever you have this at full turn and you're cutting, you're going to be able to cut a lot tighter. It's going to make, making those turns within your yard, you're going to have a lot less passes you're going to have to do, the maneuverability around the different obstacles. This is just going to be a great feature for you. And maybe this is something to where you really would like the performance of a zero turn, but you're a lot more comfortable operating a tractor. You get that with this mower. You have that tractor style mower, the same driving style, easy to operate, but then you've got the turning radius with the 4-wheel steer that gives you the zero turn feel. So if that's something you're looking for, definitely check out one of these X3 series mowers that ends in the 4, whether it be the 354, the 384, or the 394. So here on the left-hand side, we'll start with our controls. First thing we'll talk about is going to be our deck lift pedal. So right here, like I said, this is going to be our spring-assisted pedal here that's going to raise and lower this deck. Now it also works in addition with this switch here, with this lever. So what we're going to do to release that deck is be pushing in at our foot and then pushing down on our lever, and that will allow the deck to go down to whatever height you have this set at. So then if we want to go back up, we go up with our pedal and then raise up on our lever, and that's going to lock that deck into the transport mode. Now we talked about going down to that certain height, so where you're going to do that adjustment is going to be right here on the fender deck, right in between your legs. As you can see, we have increments from 1 inch all the way up to 4 inch, and those are going to be in 1/4 inch increments. So to change that, we're just going to be pushed in on our pedal, turn that switch to whatever setting we want it at. Here we're at 2.5. We would lower our lever here, let off with our pedal, and that's going to allow that deck to go down to whatever height we want it at to do that cutting. So next, guys, we'll talk about this yellow button here. Now, as you'll notice, there's nothing on the button or around the button that indicates what this is, but this is going to be our rear implement option button. What this does is this allows us to be running that mower, running those blades, and then be able to go in reverse. So normally we have these blades on and we're going and mowing. If we try to go in reverse without activating this button, it is going to kill that deck. That's just going to be a safety feature to make sure that we're not running over anything. But if we do have those times, which we always do, that we need to mow in reverse, first thing we would do is push this button and then start to go in reverse. And once we get in that rear descent, we can let off this, and that'll allow those blades to keep running while we go in reverse. So moving up here, we've got our throttle and choke. So a normal throttle, we have this orange lever here is going to be our throttle. And then next to that, we have our choke. Now, one thing about this choke that's nice is it is spring loaded, so it's not going to allow you to leave it in the choke position. So from here, I'll go ahead and start the mower up, show you how that works. Now, when we're starting our mower, it's always a good idea to put that at about mid-throttle. So put that right there in the middle. Then we'll go ahead and raise up on our choke lever here, start the mower. Now you saw that as soon as I started that mower and I let off of our choke, it went right back down into this bottom position. So from here, we can either raise our throttle or we can lower it. Now, while we have this on, one thing I want to point out is right here on the display panel, you're going to see this right here for our RPMs. So what this has is it's got a spot here at the top that's green. It's going to be where we want the RPMs of our mower to do that cutting. So as we raise this up, you see our bar go up. And once we're in full throttle, it's telling us that we're ready for cutting. Now, also while we're looking here at our display panel, a couple of the things that we'll point out, as you see there, we've got a lot of different indicators that are going to pop up. But if we turn this back on, some of the things that you're going to see, for one, most importantly, is we have an on gauge or an on display fuel gauge. This is nice. You don't have to look anywhere else to see how much fuel you have in your mower. We're also going to have our park indicator here. So if we take our parking brake off, you'll notice that it goes away, and as we set our parking brake here, it comes back on. Now, next to that, we also have our battery voltage meter. So it shows right here that we're in the normal. One thing you need to keep in mind is if this bar does go up into the red or down into the red here, we've got some sort of service that we need to do with our battery, so just be watching that. Now, below we also have our hour meter here, so that way you can keep track of those hours. And one thing also that's going to play in with this hour meter is you're also going to have a service interval reminder that's going to come up here that's going to look like a book with a wrench on it. So once that comes up, you'll be able to look here at your hour meter, see how many hours you're at, and then you can actually raise this hood panel and look here at our chart to see how many hours we're at. So once we hit our 50 hours, that reminder is going to come up. And once we hit our 100 hours, 200 hours, you'll know that you need to perform these services. Moving to the right side here, guys, first thing we'll talk about is going to be here at the switch. We do have a lights position here on the switch. So once you were to turn this mower on, you can turn it back one position to where you're lined up with that light switch, and then you will have your headlight function. So whether you're wanting to mow early in the morning, late at night, you do have that option on this mower with those front headlights. Now, next below that, this is going to be our PTO engagement or our blade engagement. It is going to be an electric engagement rather than a manual handle. So you'll just have a pop up or a pop down for off. Now, when we're going to engage these blades, a good rule of thumb is to have your throttle about halfway. Some people will tell you to have it at full throttle or maybe at a lower position, but I'm telling you that from experience, right there in the middle is a good speed for your engine to go ahead and engage those blades, as you have a clutch underneath that is actually going to start and hold and grab that belt and turn those blades on. So you don't want to be going too slow and you don't want to be going too fast, so you don't have any issues with your belt. So when you go to engage those blades, we'll put our throttle halfway, raise that button up to turn those on, push it down to turn them off. Now, next below that, we have our parking brake lever here. We showed a little bit of that on the display panel, so I'll show you how that works. Right now, we are in park, so right here is going to be our parking brake pedal. This is also going to function as a regular brake whenever you're not in the parking function. So to relieve that, we're going to push in and then push down on our lever, and you can see it relieves that pedal, and now we can use this pedal as a true brake. And so to set that, we're going to push in, raise up on our lever, and now we have our parking brake set. Now this is going to be good, maybe you're having to park this thing on an incline, maybe you're moving your mower, you're loading it on a trailer, you're not wanting it to move around or roll. That's going to be where your parking brake function is used the most. Now next, moving right next to that, now this is something that a lot of people think might be silly on these mowers, is that they do have a cruise control function, but I'm telling you from doing lots of different mowing videos, doing lots of mowing with these mowers, even though these hydrostatic mowers are very easy to operate, there's not much to pushing on those pedals. After mowing for a long time, it's nice to be able to hit that cruise control and that mower to stay going that same speed. So if you've got a lot to mow, a lot of ground to cover, you can push in, find your speed. on your pedal and then push your cruise control button, much like your car, and then that'll keep that mower engaged in that speed. And then to relieve it, just like you would on your car, we're just going to hit our brake, and that's going to pop that machine up and out of cruise. Now next, moving down here to the right, we've already talked about our parking brake pedal, but what we have down here is our twin pedal system. This is going to be what drives our mower. As you can see, very easy. We have the forward arrow and the reverse arrow, which makes for just very easy operation with this mower. We're just going to turn on the mower, find our speed up here at the throttle that we want to be at, and then to go forward and reverse, the harder we push down on these pedals, whether we're going in forward, which will have a top speed of 5.5 miles an hour going forward, or we can go in reverse where we have a top speed of 4 miles per hour. Last thing here in the operator station, guys, that we want to point out is another thing about the seat, which is going to be that it is adjustable. You'll see this lever here, and you'll see that it's just very easy to slide that over, slide this forward. It's a very smooth slide. You're going to have 6.5 inches of slide with this seat. So as you can see, if I slide this forward, it brings me very, very close to the steering wheel. And obviously this is not where I would sit when I was running this mower, but you have to consider maybe if you're that shorter operator, or maybe you're gonna have kids, you know, or someone else running this mower, you've got plenty of adjustment space here to get to where that operator can be comfortable. Now here at the rear of the mower, guys, first thing we'll talk about be underneath the seat here. We have our seat switch. We want to make sure that this is always plugged in and engaged, because if it's not, your mower will not run. It is going to detect that there's weight in the operator station there. So if this isn't plugged in, you will have issues. Next, guys, looking right down here, we do have our Mower Deck leveling kit. So they do have a nice storage compartment here for both of these pieces to keep those in place. That way you always have them. And guys, I have many videos of doing levelings on these decks, so I'll make sure to leave one of those in the description below so you can see just how to use these tools here. Now moving right back here, we talked a little bit about that spring suspension on the seat. So as you can see, we have these nice springs, but we also have these different notches where you can actually move these springs to change the feel and the ride of that seat. And one thing that I would tell you is, as you move those springs forward, the more of a rocking chair type feel you kind of have with this seat, it's going to be a little more bumpy, you know, or have that little bit of a rocking feeling. And then as you move them back, you're going to have a little more stiff ride. So just depending on what you like, depending on your weight, things like that, just know that you do have options there to change the ride at the seat. Moving over here, guys, we do have our 3-inch fuel cap opening. So very large, wide opening there, making it easy to get those fuel cans in there. You're also going to have that tethered lid to where you won't lose that. And just know that is a 3.3 gallon fuel tank. So you have plenty of fuel. Generally, you know, you can go an hour of mowing to a gallon of gas, so you can get a good 3 hours out of mowing with this machine. Moving over here to the other side, guys, we've got our cup holder, and then we also have our covered storage compartment. Now, as you can see down in here, we've got our spare key. One thing to keep in mind is that this spare key will come with every mower, but it's either going to be with your operator manual packet, and if you don't see it there, always check in your storage compartment, because that's where a lot of people put them. So always check that out. Now, lastly, guys, a couple of things here at the rear, at the very back. First thing we need to talk about is our transaxle release lever. Now, as you can see here on the sticker, it tells you a little bit about this guy. So if we have this pushed in, this means we're ready to drive this tractor. If we have it pulled out, that means we're ready to push this tractor. Now, I know that pushing this machine is something that we hope we never have to do, but we also know there's those times where maybe we run out of gas or we have other mechanical issues with the mower. So you need to know that to be able to push this machine, you will have to have this rod pulled out and also have your parking brake off. So you need to know that that's there. Lastly, guys, we have our rear hitch here. This is going to be great. That's one thing that makes these tractor style mowers so great, is that you have so many options here at the rear for rear attachments and rear implements. You know, if we need to do such things as pull that sprayer, fertilizer spreader, thatcher, whatever those different things may be, you do have that option here with that rear hitch. Real quick, we're going to talk about the 7 main grease points that you need to make sure that you're taking care of on this mower, as we know that greasing these certain components, these pivotal components, are crucial to the life of these mowers. So our first one is going to be at the rear of the mower, tucked inside of our back rear wheels. You're going to have 2 knuckles one on each side that you're going to need to make sure and grease, as this is have that 4-wheel steer mechanism. You are going to need to make sure and grease those. Next here, moving forward, we're going to have a grease point on each spindle on our deck there, right underneath our pulley on the deck. Then moving to the front, we're going to have 3 main grease points here, one at each wheel spindle here on the axle, and then we'll also have one on the axle right underneath here in the middle. Now, each of these points is where something is either pivoting or spinning, and so we need to make sure and keep those lubricated. Next, let's talk a little bit about the most important part of these mowers, which is going to be our mowing deck. And one thing I want to point out here, guys, before we dive in, is that you do have one other grease point right here on your deck, raise and lower. Now, this one isn't going to be near as crucial as the ones at your front axle, the back axle, and here on your spindles. But depending on how much you raise and lower your deck throughout the year, you may need to hit this once a season and just make sure and know that that is there. So guys, talking a little bit more about this deck, what we have here is the XL Deep 42-inch stamped deck. Now, this is going to be made out of 12-gauge steel. It's going to be a single piece of steel that is stamped. Now, there's a lot of negative connotations that go into these stamped decks, but guys, there are so many pros to having one of these stamped decks. One is going to be that you don't have any weld points. So in other words, you don't have any points for that buildup that's going to happen underneath that deck to be able to set at those weld points, cause that moisture to cause maybe rust or cracks or cause damage there. Also, guys, like I said, it's that one solid piece of steel. So we have all these smooth edges, which is going to be great for that airflow. Airflow is huge when we're talking about these mower decks because we're wanting to get that grass processed in and out of this deck as quick as possible and get it moving out. Now, we talked a little bit about buildup, and that is going to happen. You are going to get that grass, that clumping, that dirt, but you do have a nice feature on this deck to get rid of that, which is going to be right here at our washout port. Now, the way we use these, there is a certain way that you have to do this. You've got to find that either concrete or asphalt surface, get your mower parked there, set your deck all the way to the ground. Then we're going to hook our water hose up, turn our water on, then start our mower and start our blades and let that water just whip and churn underneath there to clean out from underneath the deck. Now, it's not going to get every little piece out from underneath this deck, but it will do a great job, and it's an easy way to clean underneath here without removing the deck. Now, moving forward here, next what we have is our anti-scalping wheels. One great thing about these is they are labeled here, and they will tell you, depending on how high you're going to be cutting, what setting you need to have these wheels at. Now, they will have paint over them, so if this is a little hard to see, just keep in mind that you'll also have a chart there in your operator manual that you can reference in setting those. Moving up on top here, guys, we do have this flip-up spindle cover. One thing I always like to point out about these is that they do have some information on top of them that you need to check out. For one, it's going to tell you where your grease point is. So we've got our grease gun and our arrow, and if we raise up underneath, of course, you'll see your grease point underneath. And then also right here, it's going to tell us when we're cleaning this to not use water, but use air. And so guys, you know, when we get done, it's very important that we're cleaning off these mowers. We're keeping those grass clippings and that dirt and that buildup cleaned out from underneath. That way we can preserve the life of our mower. Over here on the discharge side, guys, first thing we want to point out is just how much space you have on the underside of this deck. Now, they call this an XL Deep for a reason, is guys, you just have so much more room, so much more space for processing that material. And this is going to be important for one, for that airflow like we talked about before. And also you're able to process so much more material that you can be going through those taller grasses or weeds or whatever those things are. You're going to be able to handle it with this XL Deep deck. Now, also looking down in here, this is going to be, like I said, the 42-inch, so it will only be the 2 blades underneath. So whenever you're going to buy those blades for this mower, you just know that you do need 2. Also, guys, on the X354, the 42-inch deck is the only option. So you'll know that whenever you're looking for those parts, you are looking for that 42-inch XL Deep deck. Now, we also have over here on this side, we have another one of these anti-scalping wheels. We just want to make sure that when we adjust one, we adjust the other, make sure they're both in the same spot. And then a couple of other things here to keep in mind on top is we do have our belt routing pattern sticker here. So if you're going to change that belt, you do have this sticker here to show you. One thing that I would say to do is when you first get your mower is I would take a picture of this and keep this with you. That way you will always have that, because as we know, materials going on top of here, dirt and debris, eventually this may rub off. So you want to make sure, take a picture of that, save it, that way you have it for when you're changing these belts. Now, speaking of changing belts, one thing also that you need to keep in mind is on this side we don't have a spindle cover, and so, but we do have this belt guide here. And as you can see, we've got one bolt here, and we've got one bolt on the other side where we can take this loose before changing this belt. So guys, that's pretty much it. That should be everything that you would need to see on this X354. You know, lots of information, lots of things to consider. Like we said, if you're looking for that tractor style mower, but also looking for that zero turn feel, this is definitely gonna be the machine for you. So I highly recommend you check one of these out. Also guys, if you've been watching this and you feel like I left anything out, or you have any other questions or comments, so just make sure to leave those in the comments section below so I can get back to you. Or also through those things that we talked about, like leveling the deck, taking off the deck, make sure to check out those videos that I left for you in the link in the description below so you can see how to do those things. And also guys, while you're down there checking those things out, if you have any parts needs for this mower or for any other John Deere equipment, I'm also going to leave a link in the description where you can check those out as well. So guys, thank you so much for watching and tuning in. We'll see you next time. Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and go buy your parts at west-equip.com/parts.